Hello, my name is Vladimir, vampire vlogger, and welcome to special segment Things Vladimir ate and survived.
This is Wentworth. Your blood was actually pretty tasty. It tastes a little fruity. I liked it. This is Bernard. Bernard has strange blood, little spicy. Difficult days after this. And then I totally ate this photo shoot, leaving behind 0 crumbs. So here it is.
Turn down for what?
What do you get when you cross a hungry vampire with a haunting discussion of the impermanence of youth and beauty with a gloomy old castle? If you guessed the hunger, then you're right, unless you were referring to the 1983 erotic horror film starring David Bowie, in which case, I'm sorry, we're talking about the board game today. Maybe we'll cover that in a future video. The Hunger is a game in which you and up to 3 companions become fanged, famished flatmates out to frolic on a frightful night. Steal out of your mountain manor at sunset and into the village below. Sip blood from as many villagers as you can, scoring points each time you do so. Stray further away from your castle to score even more points every time you drink blood from somebody. But exercise caution. Any vampire unable to return to the shadowed recesses of the castle before the sun rises will be caught under the open sun. And we all know what happens to vampires in that situation.
It's like diamonds. Beautiful.
And nobody wants to attract the ire of the Volturi.
It makes me thirsty.
As in any eating competition, gameplay in The Hunger revolves around what you put into your body and what you expel from your body. Your body in this game is represented by a deck of cards that you're given at the beginning of the game. Every turn you'll have 3 cards drawn from this deck. These cards will inform you how you are feeling at the given moment through the little numbers that you'll see printed in the top left corner of each of the cards. The higher the sum of these numbers, the farther you'll be able to travel down these roads and the more hale and hearty victims you'll be able to claim. The lower the sum of these numbers, the less distance you'll be able to travel, and the lower your odds will be of being able to claim any victims save the ones that all of the other vampires at the table have passed over, like slimy potato salad of suspect origin at the family barbecue. At the beginning of the night, you'll be feeling fresh and fit, ready to sprint 50 miles and guzzle blood from 90 throats. As the night wears on and you clog up your undead bowels with high cholesterol townsfolk blood, you might start to feel a little bloated and woozy. Depending on what you ate, you might feel prone to bouts of nausea or violent food poisoning. Did that priest happen to have holy water in his hand when you attacked his carotid artery? Did a little bit of that holy water happen to drip into his bloodstream as you slurped it out of his neck? Maybe you should sit down for a second. You're looking a little green. Is it 2 o'clock in the morning? Have you overindulged on the wine-rich, fatty blood of aristocrats? Are you stranded miles from home and unable to move? Well, there is good news for you yet. If you visit the aristocrat's castle, you'll be able to pick a gallon or so of aristocrat blood and place that into your digest pile, which will prevent this card from being cycled through your discard pile when you shuffle it to make it your new deck. I really shudder to think what is actually taking place in game. I guess you're absorbing the sights, waxing a little nostalgic as you're chewing on a brick of fiber and downing 6 gallons of water to bring about probably one of the most grotesque bodily expulsions in the history of undeaddom. Not all of the cards that you add to your deck will be nasty townsfolk cards that bog you down. You will have time out there on the roads to develop sundry vampire skills like transforming into a bat or transforming into mist or hypnotizing innocent people into executing your evil will. If you are a vampire of the fancy type, you can collect little treasures like silk gloves and scarves, which is actually hilarious because you have ancient aristocrats pilfering deciphering people's wardrobes in the dead of night, trying on gloves and scarves and parasols, admiring themselves in the mirror. Though, I guess they wouldn't be able to really admire themselves in the mirror, huh? Because they're vampires. You can even tame animal companions. You want a wolf? You can run around with a wolf. That's great. You can run around town with a posse of rats that all rub their tiny paws together and squeak with delight every time you suck the blood of an orphan. If you are a plucky sort of vampire, you can even dash to the most remote regions of this kingdom and pluck for yourself one of the magic roses that grow there, granting you an ongoing bonus for the rest of the game. After a short 15 rounds of adding and subtracting cards from your deck and taming animal companions and so forth, the game will end. At that point, all of the vampires who made it back to the castle will tally up all of their points, score their secret missions, score these public missions, and announce their point totals. All of the vampires who made it to the safety of the shadowy crypts on the castle grounds will be able to add up their point totals and subtract a 5-point penalty from that total. Everyone else will be burned to a crisp and they won't score anything at all, which is rough. With all of its rules and components, which are beautiful, by the way, The Hunger wants you to believe that it is a strategy game. I mean, it's even got a scoring track printed on the board, for goodness sake. And I am here to tell you that if you approach this game as a strategy game, you will be submitting yourself to an exercise in frustration. This is a gambling game with light strategic elements. And when I say light, I mean light. You can make decisions about what parts of the game you interact with. You can decide which villagers you want to add to your deck. You can decide which treasures you pick up, if you pick up any treasures at all. You can decide to get a rose if you want. You don't have to. And those decisions will drastically affect your score at the end of the game. But each of those decisions is subject to a ton of factors that are entirely beyond your control. I think the strategy in this game is best summarized by the tavern space on the board. In the tavern space, there will be 3 cards in a face-down stack. Nobody knows what's in there. A vampire can choose to visit the tavern and hunt there. If they do, they have to collect all 3 cards in the tavern and add that to their discard pile. And this can be crazy. There might be a villager in there with a blood alcohol concentration so high that it distorts your vampire's sense of direction for the rest of the game. It's a decision that you can make, but the outcome of it is entirely beyond your control. And I mean, it's hilarious, right? Because you just broke into this tavern and started draining the blood of everyone in sight, but it has real in-game ramifications. And if you are a gamer that doesn't enjoy things beyond your control, oh boy, yeah, this game will probably irritate you. The game is abundant with decisions, but every decision you make pushes your luck ever further, stretching the rubber band of your fortunes ever thinner until it either snaps or the game ends, at which point you enjoy the thrill of surviving something that probably should have killed you. This is a game of pulling the lever on that slot machine over and over again until either your arm drops off or you hit the jackpot, whichever one comes first. When it's your friend's turn, you get that feeling of standing next to them on the casino floor in front of the mega joker, urging them to bid just $10 more. If they hit it big, that's something to celebrate, but if they bust, that's hilarious. I love this game for that. I love games that encourage players to approach them with fuzzy logic. Go with your gut, The Hunger whispers, and I listen. And if my gut leaves me with a distended belly staggering back to my gothic abode as the sun breaks over the horizon and I get roasted to ash, so be it. That's a riot. If my gut leads me back to the castle a few hours before daybreak, where I can relax in my vampiric study, soaking my bunions in Kool-Aid while I crack open a bottle of old blood, that's pretty great too. The blend of theme and mechanics in this game is immaculate. There is very little player interaction baked into the actual mechanics of the game, but the antics that all of the vampires get up to in town are certainly enough to keep everybody at the table invested and entertained. I love this game. It is one of a few games that reliably deliver a tasty experience to everybody that I play it with, but it's not entirely bereft of issues, which we should go over very quickly. Number one, probably the biggest issue. This game has some rules in it that feel a little fiddly and are difficult to remember. That means that if you are the proud owner of this game and you are the one bringing it to your friend's house to play with everyone, you are signing up to be the reminder person to make sure everybody remembers that when they're on a well space, they have an extra hunt that can only be used in the one column, or that the turn order is going to swap every round depending on which vampire is furthest away from the castle. And if multiple vampires are in the same region, then the vampires on the road go before the vampires on the railroad, who go before the vampires on the ship path. You'll have to remind them of all those things when they forget them, which will probably be frequently. Number two, there are keywords in this game. For those of you who aren't familiar with keywords, that is when a card will have an effect that is defined by a special rule set. And to save space on the card, a publisher, a designer will create one word that refers to that entire kind of effect or rule set without explaining the whole thing every time. So when I look at Jada here and I see ready, I know that that means when I hunt Jada, they don't go into my discard pile like normal cards, they'll actually go on top of my deck. And there are not very many keywords in this game, but there are certainly enough to where players at the table will forget what permanent means or what holy water might mean. And oh, hello. And you'll have to explain that to them. Number three, the number 79 is printed twice on the scoring track, and they'll probably fix that in future editions, but it's in on this one. All of these issues can be reliably solved by taking time to familiarize yourself with the contents of the manual before you sit down to play it with your friends. Please, please, please do not try to learn this game and teach it to your friends and play it in the same night. We don't support torturing your friends like that here on Jumble and Gaff. Take some time to wine and dine this manual before you sit down to teach this game. The Hunger offers an innovative, fun, fresh, if not slightly fiddly twist on the deck building genre, which has grown quite crowded over the years. It's nice to have something that offers a different experience. It's punchy, it's unpredictable, it's fairly easy to play, all while defying attempts to master it with a churlish wink. Are the cards you add to your deck all positive? Nope. Do at times you feel like you are ruining your deck deliberately to try and win? Yeah, that's kind of the conceit of the game. You're trying to balance adding bad things to your deck along with adding good things to your deck, and that's different, but it's really fun. If you're looking for a more linear deck building experience, I definitely recommend looking into Clank or Dominion. You can pick up a couple of the expansions for Dominion if you really want to. I'd recommend Nocturne. Both of those games deliver more mechanical, arguably smoother experiences that make up for what they lack in roller coaster wildness with huge combos and cold logic. You can look into those if you're interested in that kind of experience. And that is the review. You have made it to the end of the video. Thanks for sticking around. Have a great day on the internet.